Welcome to the Teacher RockStar podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hiles, and today we're going to be talking about a crucial subject here that's really crucial to every teacher out there, and that's establishing rules in your classroom. You know, it goes without saying, if you want a smooth, well-managed classroom where students thrive, then setting clear expectations is non-negotiable. So that's the big thing here. So I want to make sure it's understood. Now, let's take a look about why classroom rules matter. Well, number one, they provide structure and order. You can't teach in a class that's chaotic, where chaos abounds. It's just not going to work. You need to create a environment that's conducive to learning. All right. Now, by establishing rules, then what's going to happen? Well, obviously, you're going to reduce behavioral issues. And particularly if you establish clear expectations from the onset, which is very critical. Now, I want to kind of take a look at how to create effective rules in the first place. Well, number one, you want to keep the rules simple and clear. You want to use positive language. And instead of saying, for example, don't be rude, you might say, respect others. So I would probably stay away from using the word don't. You want to keep these rules obviously positive. Now, you want to also make sure that you cover your behavioral expectations as well. Like, don't blurt out answers. Well, raise your hand to speak is a much better way of saying it. Now, it would really be beneficial if you can get student buy-in. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first started teaching in my early years, I had the rules already up there. I had them on an anchor chart, for everyone to see. And of course, we went over them explicitly and everything, modeled and rehearsed. But I found out later as I was moving along in my teaching career, that if you had students, help you create these rules. Now, you already know in your mind which, X amount of rules you're going to have and what they should entail. But giving them a sense of, hey, they're participating in this, I think is going to pay off in big dividends. And I think you will see. So if you get that student buy-in, I think it's going to really, really pay off in the long run. Now, let's go on to reinforcing your rules. This is one thing that I've always done, and I would recommend that you do as well. And that's, explicitly explain what the rule is, number one. Model it, number two. And three, rehearse it over and over again till it becomes second nature. That's what you want to do here. Use role playing for practice. That's a very, very powerful strategy. And it reinforces daily through discussions. Now, what I would do is during my morning meetings, bring that rule in place and go ahead and talk about that during morning meetings and things of this nature. And look at that last point there. Be consistent in rule enforcement. You can't be one way one day and be totally opposite the next. It's just not going to work because students are going to play you. I guarantee that. So you want to be consistent, That's the biggest key there. Are you a teacher who finds yourself drowning in the challenges of classroom management? Do student behaviors leave you feeling overwhelmed and drained at the end of each day? Picture this, a classroom where your students are not just present, but fully engaged, focused, and eager to learn. Say goodbye to classroom management stress and hello to success. The Teacher RockStar Academy course is meticulously designed to equip you with the tools and strategies needed to skyrocket your effectiveness as a teacher. Curious to know if the Teacher RockStar Academy course is the missing piece in your teaching journey? If you're ready to reclaim control of your classroom and witness the incredible impact on your students, then use the link in the podcast description to learn more about this program. Now, how we want to handle rule breakers. Well, number one, you don't want to rat and rave and scream. I think that really undermines your authority as a classroom teacher. You could stay calm and you could be consistent and let your classroom behavioral plan be the bad guy. All right. Use logical consequences. Now, what might that be? What might that look like? Well, let's say in a cafeteria, a student accidentally bumps somebody and they happen to spill their tray. Well, I think a logical response would be for that student to help the other student clean up that mess, for one thing. And there's other things. If a student is constantly disrespectful, have them maybe stand at the classroom door, greeting students along with you as they come into the room. Now, that would be a logical consequence. I'm just trying to think what would be one that you probably wouldn't want to do if you know, send someone out after the first infraction to the principal's office. You don't need to do that. As a matter of fact, I could, unless it's a zero tolerance policy, I think you need to be able to handle your own situations that happen in that classroom. Because I think anytime you send a kid out to another teacher or to the principal's office, I think it kind of usurps your authority. The other thing I want to kind of bring to your attention is public embarrassment. Again, when I first started teaching, yes, did I put names on the board? Occasionally, but what I did have, I had a color chart with strips of construction paper laminated, green for being good all day, yellow for, hey, you had an infraction, orange, maybe two infractions, and of course, red was a phone call home, or if the case warranted enough, sent to the principal's office. But I don't think that is necessary there. When you look at restorative practices, you don't want to do that. I don't think you want to social shame students. Now, what do I mean by that? Putting their name on the board. No. Having a color card chart or clothespin chart or whatever you have there. What would be more, I think, appropriate for the teacher to have a clipboard with a class roster on there with maybe specific rules on there that all you can simply do is just put a check on there. So I think that system would probably work out a lot better than actually social shaming kids, because all it's going to do is cause resentment. And that's not what you want there. Strengthen teacher student relationships. Now, I can't emphasize that enough. Building a strong classroom community is foundational. It's not just something added to your plate. It's something that you have to do. If students, like, know, and trust you, if they feel seen, valued, and heard in your class, you're going to preclude 99.9% of the behavior issues that's going to happen. I mean, really trying to have authentic communications and relationships with your kids in the class, I think is super, super powerful. And like I said before, it's a foundational thing that must take place for you to have a successful year. Moving on, final thoughts. Clear rules equals a smooth classroom. Now, some of you might ask, well, how many rules should I have in my classroom? If you have too many, it gets convoluted, and it's hard to remember more than 5 rules. I would tell you this as a guideline: 3 to 5 rules, max of 5, and I think the sweet spot here is 3. 3 rules that would encompass, your behavioral expectations in that classroom. That's what I've used for years, and it's worked out well for me. The next point here is consistency. I can't say that enough. You can't be one way, you break hard on kids one day and then cut them slack the next, because, you give them an inch. You heard that saying, give them an inch, you'll take a mile. So you just got to be fair. You got to be consistent, and that will equal a successful learning environment. Invest time in rule setting early. Absolutely. And I want to tell you something. Before I even broke out a textbook, at the very beginning of the school year, I would take 3 to 4 days and do nothing but, I wouldn't even touch a textbook. I would go ahead and start the ball rolling in terms of building relationships with these kids, going over your classroom rules, modeling them, rehearsing them, go over your procedures, how you enter the classroom, how you leave, what to do if you need to use the restroom or your pencil breaks, et cetera, et cetera. We went through all that, and plus building community activities. It was very, very powerful. So, but anyway, you set all that up early on, and I guarantee you it's going to lead to a more productive year. No doubt about that. Now, so having said all that, when done right, when you do this right, you're going to create a positive learning environment where students are going to feel safe, and obviously supported. Take the time to set this up properly at the very beginning, and it's going to pay off for you in the long run. Now, What I would typically do too, after you had long breaks, like say maybe after winter holidays or spring break, or maybe when you had new students enter the classroom, is to go ahead and revisit your rules, your classroom rules, because children, for some reason, have a tendency to forget these after long breaks. So you'll have to, for the most part. So you want to go back over that, keep it fresh in their minds. So if you want more classroom management strategies, check out the Teacher RockStar Academy and learn more about it there. So having said that, we have come to the end of this episode, and I will see you same time, same place next week. And always remember, you've got this.
You've been listening to the Teacher RockStar podcast with your host, Steve Hiles. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast as much as we have. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our ever-growing community of Teacher Rockstars. Until then, thanks for listening.